Salesforce have changed their prices 13 times in the last 12 months.
Save time is not enough anymore.
If you don't have the right packages, you can never really do value selling.
If you're a go-to-market leader, an entrepreneur, CEO that is starting to think about how the heck do I charge now that I have integrated AI into my SaaS platform, this episode is for you. My friend Roee Hartuv from Willingness to Pay is going to help us break down the new model that helps sellers reduce their risk and maintain some profitability along the journey of introducing AI into their tools. Hello, rascals. I am so excited for today's episode. I have Roee Hartuv from Willingness to Pay with me today. And if you've been following my journey over the last decade, you know how obsessed I am with pricing, packaging, and going to market with what is going to be the easiest sale with the highest profitability and that can scale with your business. And, you know, I've been saying it for a long time, but I thought I'd bring in an additional authority so that everyone would start listening to me. Roee, welcome to the show.
Great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so tell us about how you ended up as an advisor for pricing and packaging for SaaS companies with Willingness to Pay.
Yeah, I grew up as a software sales, field sales, the classical sales journey, individual contributor, and then climbing my way up. Then COVID hit, and the last company that I worked for, we ran out of money. And it was like, okay, now what? And I used to work for early stage companies, so taking them from that like few millions in ARR all the way to that 20, and where processes starts to kick in, I'm like, okay, I want to do it all over again. But then it was during COVID that I decided, okay, maybe let's take a pause for a second. And I got the opportunity to join a growth advisory firm. I've done that and then moved on to Winning by Design, which is a sales and go-to-market training and strategy company. After doing general go-to-market, sales, customer success, processes, trainings, etc., for 4 years with Winning by Design, I decided that I want to pick just one area. And I chose to focus on pricing and packaging, which I have experienced in the past, also by Winning by Design. But I came to the conclusion that pricing and packaging is the number one growth lever a company has. And out of all the toolboxes that I used, new processes, new tools, better outreach campaigns, whatever that might be, pricing and packaging is the number one growth lever that people usually miss. And that's why I decided to focus on that. And that's what I've been doing ever since with Willingness to Pay. And that's what we do. We help companies redesign, improve their pricing and packaging, mostly software companies, but any recurring revenue B2B companies.
Okay, so I absolutely love this. First of all, before we move on to more pricing and packaging, I have the same personality, taking companies to 25, maybe 50 million. And then when it becomes like more maintenance, process, like all the fires are put out, I'm like, I need another one. I'm bored. Let's go. Like
And politics, Michelle, and local politics.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for bringing that up. Absolutely. The speed at which you can do things to a certain point before the red tape gets in the way is some of the greatest joy as an advisor, a consultant, fractional CRO. Yes, I'm right there with you. So I quit corporate America because the red tape drove me through the roof. Like I'd come home so pissed and be like, this doesn't make any sense. Like I know there's a better way. So I'm right there with you. That's my focus too. All right. So I think what's on top of mind for a lot of people listening right now, especially with recurring revenue, because recurring revenue is the business gold mine. If you can lock that in, then you can scale easier. You can manage your cash flow easier. You can hire faster. You can sell faster if that's your goal. But there's some complications happening right now with the traditional way of pricing and packaging. And AI is it. Like, I may sound like a broken record to everyone listening to podcasts talking about AI, but one thing I don't hear enough is how AI is impacting pricing and packaging, features, how we're shifting away from a per user to consumption and still saying profitable and scalable. Roee, we got to break this down. Tell me what you are seeing right now, how AI is impacting pricing and packaging.
Yeah. So when we move from that classical seat-based monthly type of pricing models into usually consumption-based, that means that the seller takes much more of the risk. What do I mean by risk? If the buyer does not use the system, we're not going to get paid. And that completely changes our, first of all, go-to-market strategies in general, and then pricing and packaging. So that is the first thing that comes to mind. Also, cost. One thing to bear in mind, right? When we used to sell software as SaaS, recurring revenue, adding an additional customer was basically zero. Right, there's some storage costs, maybe calculation costs, APIs, but that's marginal. So the cost margin to add another customer was basically zero. However, with AI, we know that has some cost associated to it. Numbers out there, and too early to say, but say 50% margin on a user or on an account, right, compared to that 90% margin that we had with SaaS.
Okay, wait, we got to stop there because we got to highlight that. So everyone listening right now, 90% margin down to 55?
55, yes.
Okay, so, and also, if we're billing on consumption, how are you recommending the lock-in for the recurring revenue model?
Yeah, this is where usually I would recommend we're going into the details. We're 5 minutes in. Okay.
I know. That's how I do it, Roee. I'm like, let's go all in.
All right, let's go all in. Usually I would go with a hybrid model. Right, so there is some sort of base fee that is ongoing on a monthly. So this is as a seller, or the buyer, everybody commits to a certain level of expenses every month, every quarter, whatever that period might be. But then there's the consumption on top of that. And that's how you mitigate that, right? The biggest risk is that we don't know, we cannot predict what's going to be our revenue because we sign a contract. We don't know if that account is going to use $100K a month or $20K a month. We just don't know. We can simulate, but we don't know. So having that hybrid approach, a base fee, and then consumption on top of that really the only way to mitigate that risk.
So that's good. At least we're still locking in a base price and then for usage. So to me, this means that it is mission critical for customer success or the product itself to encourage usage.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about what you're doing with that, because I think that's really interesting.
Yeah. So first of all, before we encourage usage, because this is not really new, right? Like customer success, they were always there to encourage usage. But we need, unlike in SaaS, which was important but was mainly overlooked, we need to give our customers complete control and visibility on how they're using and what are they using. Because we're going to bill them on that. And we need to make them aware how much they're using, what are the limits, when are they reaching the limits. We need to give them control. So some users might be able to do these type of action that uses a lot of that AI capabilities and some might not. So this is another thing. So visibility and control, allowing our customers to have that. And then comes, I think it's the regular practices that customer success and product as well need to encourage more usage. But It's more important that they use it. But at the end of the day, both SaaS and AI, if they don't use it, they will churn. It's just a matter of, how fast we will see that in terms of revenue.
Yes. One thing that's coming to my mind right now, I'm thinking of some giants right now that have added in AI, but their pricing model has not changed. So, for example, the first thing that comes to mind for me is HubSpot. So we use HubSpot. I love HubSpot. And they added in a co-pilot that is building all of my automations, doing all of these amazing things that I used to pay full-time sales assistants for. But my pricing per user is still exactly the same. Now, are they going to increase my pricing? Yeah, probably per user or whatever, but it is not based, at least I haven't seen any announcements about changing it based on usage. So I guess for me, it's like, wow, that's like a big risk on the seller side of HubSpot. So can we just talk through how some of the giants aren't shifting?
Yeah, you've got, actually, let's use HubSpot and Salesforce as usual. Let's compare the two approaches. So HubSpot is doing exactly what you said. They haven't changed their pricing. And that is because I believe, haven't talked to anybody at HubSpot, because they want to learn the usage patterns first. And pricing will adopt sooner than later. But they just want to understand how much people are using it, what is the value that they're actually getting, and how much they could potentially charge on that. So that is, they're testing it out, and once they figure it out, they will roll out with new pricing, I'm sure. Salesforce, on the other hand, did the other way around. And Mark Benioff, I think it was 5 months ago, introduced sales agents. Forgot the term that he coined there.
I think you're correct. Yes.
Yeah. And then they changed their price completely. And if you look, he introduced it 5 months ago, but they did introduce AI capabilities before that. Salesforce has changed their prices 13 times in the last 12 months.
I mean, if you say it out loud, it sounds pretty crazy.
It is crazy. And they are one of the best companies in the world, and probably the best company, not the best, but one of the best companies in terms of go-to-market strategy, and they haven't figured it out. So their approach is, okay, we want to introduce AI and we're going to change the pricing. And they're still struggling to figure out what is the best approach there. So we've got two approaches there. All of the companies out there are choosing one or the other.
Yeah, one thing you had said to me when we were chatting before we started is how OpenAI is losing money on all the pro accounts. And I find that really, really interesting. So share, why do you think that's happening from your expertise? And if you had the opportunity to advise OpenAI, what would you say?
Yeah, advising OpenAI, I think that's on pricing, that's the ultimate goal. We're expected to be there.
I'm cheering for you.
All right. First of all, I made a mistake. It's not the pro accounts, it's the enterprise accounts. So the enterprise accounts, they use APIs. They are losing money on every account there. It's the same thing. They're testing it out. And I don't know, the latest was $200 per month. And then API, stuff on top of that, tokens on top of that. They're losing money on every enterprise account. Sam Altman said that clearly. They're testing it out as well. And they also changed I think in the last 12 months, 10 times they changed their pricing. So they also want to see that they're testing it out. But when you're OpenAI, here's the paradox here. They don't care about losing money. We know that they're losing billions and billions. I don't know, hundreds of billions. They don't care about losing money. So for them, it's just a market share grab. That's what they're doing there. So pricing for them is not top priority to make sure that they're making money on every account. So for them, it's a different ball game, but that's OpenAI. It's one of,
Yeah, it's a bit of an anomaly, right? So in your current advisory work, somebody comes to you, I would assume, at what stage do they come to you? And what does it look like to go through your process to figure out what the pricing and packaging should be for their business? And I also want you to touch on how it's a living document, for lack of better description, how you have to constantly revisit it.
Yeah. The use case that we see is traditional SaaS companies that now integrate AI capabilities and want to understand how to price it. As you said, like HubSpot. I wish HubSpot will be a client, but not that big. Or the smaller scale-ups, companies that already have a few tens of millions in ARR. And they introduced AI, and now what are we going to continue to be seed-based? Are we going to be seed-based and AI? Are we going to do complete usage-based? So these are the use cases that we usually see. And the process is we start off with a design and we understand, what is the value, and try to capture that value. In a lot of cases in SaaS, luckily we can price on value, not necessarily on cost. B2B. B2C is a different ballgame, but B2B, it's more about value capturing and understanding the customer's willingness to pay, and then creating a pricing structure based on that.
Okay, let's talk about value capture and how people are willing to pay for value versus a million other things that we could talk about, specifically B2B. I did an episode about 6 weeks ago on my opinions on what value looks like right now. And one thing is save time is not enough anymore. Like for me, I think that's gone out of style for B2B. Maybe when it first came out, people were attracted to save time, but that's not really pulling them over the line anymore. And you can disagree or agree, but I'm just curious, like, what are you seeing right now in terms of patterns? And like, other than we'll make you money or save you money, like what else is really working in those B2B SaaS platforms right now?
At the end of the day, there are two, when you look at it, when you go high level, value is, or business outcome is help you make more money or help you save money or lower costs, right? These are the two things. This is business school 101. Everything is tied to that. So I save you time, I save you money, I allow you to do more campaigns, better targeted campaigns, make you more money. So everything falls into these two categories. When we talk about value and we want to connect it to a price, so we actually try to quantify what exactly is that value. So we interview as part of our design process, the new pricing and packaging that we work on, like we talk to customers. How much money are we saving, or how much money are we helping you make? And that is the value. It's all about dollars. That's the value. There's also emotional impact or emotional value, but usually when you talk about pricing, is that how much money? And back to classical pricing. Okay, so if we are able to generate this amount of value, what is the split, right? How much am I, the seller, going to take, and how much you as a customer you leave on your end? And that's basically finding that place, not in the middle, but finding the right place. And companies' willingness to pay changes, right? So some cases, just help me and I'll give you most of that share. But most of the cases, it's like, okay, you get to keep some, but I, the buyer, keep it for myself.
I would love to hear, you don't have to tell me who it was, but just what the product does would be very helpful. Of what was like one of your favorite projects you've worked on in the last 6 to 12 months, and what does that product do, and why was that so enjoyable for you?
I don't know if it's the product but it was a fantastic customer to work with. They were doing a contract management lifecycle platform. So for the lawyers and counsels, they have to capture, first of all, you need to capture all the contract that the company has, because it doesn't live in Salesforce, or it should live, but only on the contract side. But your employee contract, your vendor contract, those contracts need to live in one place. So they had a classical SaaS solution, was working great, but now, they need to become an AI platform because they want to raise their Series D. So they started to integrate AI into that, and we moved from seed-based into that. There it's consumption, which is based on the number of contract that the system processed, and with all the AI on top of that. So that is a classical case study. It was a fantastic customer to work with.
Awesome. So I think that as I see that, I can see how consumption model could work really, really well for that specific business because it would make so much sense. Like if you have 10,000 contracts, clearly the pricing is different than 2,000 contracts or 200. And I mean, I don't know what this product does, but I would assume it's like, by the way, this contract is coming up for renewal. Oh, by the way, this violates the, like, I mean, my imagination can like keep going. So I would like that's actually really valuable because even the smaller companies, like I typically act as a fractional CRO for sub 50 million. And when I come in, it's like trying to find all the needles in the haystack for the contracts. I'm like, how long are we committed to this product or this service? Or, did we sign up for 1 year, 2 years, like all of these different things. So I can see how practical of an application that would be and useful for the customer.
And in that situation, so let's talk about that sub 50 million use cases. Usually you have one counsel, one lawyer in the company, or maybe two at that stage. And then you have the CRO that needs to a few viewers. So basically they priced on user base before we came in. So two counsels, CROs, management, CFO, HR maybe. So what we're talking about 10 seats, right? And that does not really grow with the amount of the actual usage and the value that they're getting. So moving to a contract, which is usage based on a contract level, of course, that grows with the company. So that exponentially even. So that's, I think it was a great success there in building a very nice structure to their new pricing and packaging.
Yes, absolutely. They're probably, I would think with the movement that you made, just based on this short conversation, their revenue is going to go through the roof. Because if they were always just depending on 10 users for honestly up until like over 50 million, that's some stale usage. So that's amazing. I love that so much. That's a great use case of how the company who, because we talked about in the beginning, the seller takes the risk. But in this circumstance, the way that you were able to execute that, I think that's minimized, the seller risk.
Yeah. The mindset usually, okay, so how can you increase and exponentially the pricing for the users? When we're moving from a user-based and what they're thinking about every new user that we bring in cost them, I'm just making this up, it wasn't there, but another $2,500 for another seat. Instead of that, for every contract that you bring in, you pay $2. And that's easier to consume, easier to understand. From that mindset, we're connecting the pricing to actual outcomes, which is processing contracts and not on inputs, which are seats. And that's easier to sell. And that's how, in that case, we're really able to help them increase their revenue.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love that so much. Great job. I can just tell from that conversation that company is very, very happy. Okay. So another thing I want to jump into right now, when we are preparing for the interviews, everyone knows I am obsessed with the styles of selling. I did an episode just a few weeks ago on it. And for me, I'm a charismatic seller. Like I have to know what I'm doing clearly, or the charisma is going to fail. But I've always been the charismatic seller. And that's worked really, really well for me in my life. However, I think there's multiple paths to being a great seller. And when we were chatting, you shared with me that approach, my approach, like just doesn't work for you, and you found a different way. And I'd love for you to share that with my audience right now, because there's so many people that don't resonate with my selling style that I really love it when others can come to the table and share theirs.
Yeah. All right. So it starts off with the following story. So when I started out my career in software sales, I was doing okay. After 2 years, a very charismatic sales leader came, and she was responsible for the complete region that I was selling into. And she took me under her wings and basically coached me on how to do sales. And I remember a specific meeting, and that is an indication on how she did sales. So we went to a boardroom of one of the bigger life science companies out there. And that specific business unit was responsible, I think, 2 to 3 billion revenue every year. they were doing diabetic drugs. So yeah, very lucrative business area. And it was a face-to-face before COVID. So you did sales, flying and meeting clients. That's what we did back then.
Sure did.
I remember driving there. I was like, shouldn't we get prepared? And she was like, no, I know what I need to say. So we weren't prepared. She probably was. And we got into the room, and she had a PhD in neuroscience, and she was also a very attractive woman. When she entered a room, everybody listened because she was attractive and she was very smart. And she basically controlled the rooms of executives there, and she was able to write on the whiteboard and just show everybody our value proposition and the product. And she was a natural, charismatic salesperson. So I thought, this is how you do sales. And I tried to replicate that. And I struggled for almost 18 months, a year and a half after that. And I tried to do the same thing. So I wasn't prepared. I tried to do the whiteboarding stuff. I tried to talk about science, which she had a PhD. I didn't. I tried to talk about science. It didn't come up right. And yeah, I was really struggling. And then I figured out, well, it's not working for me. Maybe I need to change approach. And back then I was Sandler sales or Sandler selling, I think, training. So I did that on my own and understood that there are different ways to do selling. So as an introvert myself, I came to the conclusion that there's another way of doing sales, which is coming prepared, which is to basically be curious. This is Sandler selling, a lot of questions, right? Understanding the pain, diving into that. And that's how I developed my own selling techniques, or again, looked at Sandler's selling and did that myself. And of course, ever since then, and then I continued and did different roles. I changed, of course, my style and learned other approaches and tried to combine a few of them to make it my own.
Yes, I love that so much. And I think the lesson to take away from this, of anyone listening right now that feels like you haven't hit your stride in being able to sell a maximum amount, or you're struggling somewhere. This could be founders, entrepreneurs, it could be buyers, there's consultants, sellers, like everybody who listens to this show. I encourage you to do exactly what you did, Rowey, is seek out another method, because there is so many different ways to be successful selling. And I think it's a really important message. And I remember I've been called the introvert's wingman before, or wingwoman, because like this woman who I kind of want to know who she is right now, that's my same strategy. I walk into the room, I have a very strategic plan. I wear something on my outfit that is an attention grabber or a conversation piece. I use neuropsychology to engage people. I can work a room of all, like, that's just what you described is literally how I sell. However, the big part is I still have to be disciplined post the wooing, you would say, right? So you still have to, but to get the attention and the interest can be very, very different. And so I love that you were able to shift and to be successful, because I have taken a lot of introverts underneath my wing too. And I'm like, come, I'll show you. And then quickly, because I do sales training, I realize, ooh, that maybe doesn't work for everybody. So we're going to need to pivot here. So I appreciate you sharing that with us.
All right, rascals, let me ask you this. How much money have you wasted replacing shoes, sneakers, or even bags that could have lasted way longer if only you'd been taken better care of them? I know for me, running from meetings to kids' activities, life gets messy fast. And that's why I always have Jason Mark Quick Wipes on hand. Jason Mark is trusted care to help you get the most out of what you wear. They're not just about cleaning. They're about protecting what you love while protecting the planet. Their wipes are now 100% plant-based and plastic-free, made from renewable lyocell fibers. They're individually wrapped so you can toss them in your bag, your car, or like me, your kids' backpacks. And it's not just convenience. Jason Mark is part of the worldwide B Corp movement, meeting the highest standards for social and environmental impact. They're EPA Safer Choice certified, so you know the formulas are safe for your family. And their products are USDA, bio-based and certified biodegradable. That means no harmful junk like PFAS or VOCs. Just high-performance care that keeps your stuff looking fresh while doing right by the planet. Personally, as a busy mom and entrepreneur, Quick Wipes are my favorite. They've saved my sneakers from coffee spills, playground dust, you name it. One wipe and I'm ready to walk into my next meeting looking sharp. So here's the deal. Go to jasonmark.com and use promo code Revenue Rascals at checkout for 25% off your order. One time per customer. Again, that's jasonmark.com, code Revenue Rascals. And remember, this podcast is free thanks to sponsors like Jason Mark. I'm ungating sales strategies people pay me six figures for. So go support them, grab your Quick Wipes or your favorite product, and keep your kicks looking fresh.
So I'm curious. So your journey, you learned the way to sell best for you, and I'm sure you're still selling and contributing in this advisory firm. So over this business journey, and we had Dave Boyce on a few weeks ago. So we love all go-to-market stuff over here. So talk to me a little bit about, you've had a long journey, an interesting journey through different companies and go-to-market strategies and all of this. So what's one belief around business that you just strongly disagree with, but most people accept as true?
I changed my thought around that sales and marketing are basically responsible for growth. And again, usually like the type of companies that I like to work with or used to work at was like that 5 million, 2 million, all the way to that 20, 30. It's all about sales, right? And we think that in order to drive growth, just give marketing and sales enough people, enough budget, and they're responsible for that. After moving away and seeing the entire go-to-market strategy, the entire go-to-market team, it's not only a sales and marketing responsibility. In a lot of cases, especially early on, product has a lot to do with that. And that's why I love growth teams, right? Growth teams everybody uses growth teams now as a term, but in the basic element, growth team is basically product people that are responsible for revenue. Right? You take product people and then match them with marketing people and then give them clear KPIs around revenue goals and retention goals. That's why I love that, because they prove that, it's not only a sales and marketing job. We could also do that by creating upsell and cross-sell opportunities within the product, etc. So there's just one example of why that does not happen.
Yes. No. Yeah. And that makes a lot of sense to the audience. I think anyone who's lived in the revenue world knows that to be true. Although some CEOs would just still like to throw it on sales, but that's okay. You know how it goes. But I think it's really, I was just actually looking through a few stats the other day, and deals are slowing. Research, I forget the exact stat, but I think it was 61 to 81% of buying decisions were actually made prior to booking the call with a sales rep or someone from the company. And then on the other side of that, there's not enough information on people's websites or within the product to even get people to book said call. So I think it's, and I just think this is a real common thing, but I think it's going to get more and more. Like, I don't personally feel like there's never going to be, like, in 5 years, there's no such thing as an enterprise sales rep. I personally don't believe that, but I do think there is going to be a major reduction in the amount of salespeople needed per organization. And that can be super positive for companies because you're going to have more profitability. Sellers are really expensive. But also, one thing I want to talk about outside of profitability, but it does tie back eventually, is velocity of these deals. Like, velocity is one of my favorite things to talk about, because it's like, if you can close a $100,000 deal 2 months faster than your competitor, that's everything, actually. So I would love to talk about velocity for a few minutes right now, and how you're seeing these products and the way that they're built. Like, let's lean on the product team a little bit to increase that velocity. And I mean, when I say the product team, it's like also the website, but if you do a free user or lifetime access, that's also on product. So just curious what some insights you have along that conversation.
Let's maybe bring it to my world a bit, the pricing and packaging part. I came to realize that having the right packages or building the right packages can dramatically increase velocity. What do I mean by that? Classical packaging is like the tiers, right? We have, or good, better, best kind of packages, right? That's a classical one. And traditionally, we used to put 60% of our customers want these features. Let's put them under the basic, the good package. And then the better package is another 30% of our accounts. And then the 10 accounts that need only the special features, we'll put them under the best package. That's not the right way to do that, because you are causing the conversation, the sales conversation, to be around features. And we know when we are talking about features, then we're benchmark compared to our competitors, and I don't need this feature, and why do I need this? Why am I paying for that? That's the conversation. But by designing packages around jobs to be done, I mean, what are the challenges or what are the jobs that the buyer needs to complete using my product? And building the packages around that, having the entire conversation about what are you trying to achieve, and this is the package that will help you achieve that. And the entire conversation is around your jobs to be done, your challenges, and the value that we could provide, and not on features. So for example, that is a great way to increase velocity. And if you build it correctly, the upsell from one package to the other, or for example, documents, right? To our point earlier, there is a natural upsell if you build it correctly, which the client already understand that you want more contracts. You're going to continue to buy more and more. There's a natural progression. And I don't need salespeople or account managers to actually chase after and send or sell you the next package or the next tier, because I have built it. The mechanism is within how I build the packages and the pricing model. So I think you're absolutely right. And there are so many ways of increasing velocity just by building the right packaging and pricing. And this is, by the way, this is why I chose to focus on pricing and packaging, because before I focused on packaging and pricing, I used to do sales processes. And let's see how we can create a process that is 10% faster than what we currently have. And let's see how we can make it streamlined and a POC, etc. But if you build pricing and packaging, it's already there.
It makes it so much easier. So much. And one thing that you had said, I mean, this just goes back to old school selling that we all know the answers to. If you sell based on features and benefits, that's not in a very effective way, right? Like that will always slow things down, and buyers will do exactly what you described. I don't want this. I need this. And then you're piecemealing stuff together. It's super frustrating. You lose the speed, and that is detrimental to the speed of the sales cycle. So you're doing essentially the same thing that any sales trainer or coach would say is, don't sell features and benefits, please. So I absolutely love that.
But I did that for a long time as a sales leader, and then as a go-to-market advisor. It's like, don't do feature selling, do value selling. Easy to say, but if you don't have the right packages, you can never really do value selling, because you're talking about features and why it doesn't make sense, why this feature is there. And you're asking your sellers to focus on value, but you don't give them the right structure to talk about value.
That is a mic drop right there, because that is 100% true. And I have been stuck in a few situations myself where like, what's the value here, guys? Like, what are we doing? We're going to have to step back and recreate this, because you're absolutely right. Like a seller or a company will lean on their features and benefits when the value has not been specifically communicated across the company. It means the sellers, the marketers, the CEO, your social media posts, your website, like, where is the value? And for me, it's really quite fun to watch that if it can be corrected in early growth stage. And I would argue that happens more likely than not, unfortunately. And, it's the speed of go-to-market. It's the speed of just getting a few people out there. But anyone listening right now that's making these decisions, CEOs, product advisors, hit the back button for 20 seconds and listen to that one again.
Fantastic.
Awesome. All right, Roee, this has been a fantastic interview, and I'm really excited to ask you my favorite question about the show. So, what is the most rascal thing that you have ever done in business?
I don't know if it's the most rascal thing, but in my work today, I push customers to raise their pricing before everything is ready.
Expand on what that means.
Yeah.
I want to hear more.
My approach, and it's nothing special, but I think a lot of advisors practice on that. You can't wait for everything to be perfect, and especially in pricing and packaging. There are so many ways to skin the cat, and I don't think that I ever got it perfect. But the iterations of that and making sure that we don't get stuck in the design process waiting for us to find a perfect solution is more important, and the velocity is more important. So in a lot of cases, just tell my clients, okay, this is the option that we chose. We can continue to talk about it for another 4 weeks, but it doesn't move the needle. Let's roll this out, and if we need, we'll go back and revisit this and adopt as we learn from the market and get signals from the market. So I think this is a lot of things that I don't think it's rascal, but I do think that in a lot of cases, like, yeah, but we're not done yet. Yeah, but let's move like that. Let's keep the momentum going and test it out.
I think that is rascal. I mean, a lot of people wait for perfection. A lot of people. And maybe not so much at the early growth stage, like risk tolerance is a little higher and speed is higher, like we talked about, not as much red tape. But regardless of what stage in business that you're in, money loves speed. Period. Like, that's it. Mic drop. Like, I was actually trying to debate what tattoo I wanted to put on my wrist, and I might put that one. I'm just kidding. But that is how much I believe in it. And so the slower you take as an organization or a company or as an advisor to create and to execute, I 100% go for good enough, let's go. And iterations are everything. So I love that so much. Now, Roee, if my listeners want to get your help, where can they find you, and how would you like them to reach out to you?
LinkedIn is the channel for us. Please reach out. And I sometimes write smart things there. So if anybody wants to follow.
I love that. Thought leadership and an opportunity to work with Roee and willingness to pay. We'll make sure that the LinkedIn profile is linked in the show notes. But thank you so much for your time today. And I cannot wait for my listeners to hear this episode.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Independence isn't just about where you go. It's about how well you live when you get there. That's why I am genuinely excited about Indie Stove, because it completely changes what outdoor and off-grid cooking looks like. Indie Stove is an ultra-portable, collapsible stove that fits basically anywhere, but performs like a real kitchen tool. It heats up in minutes, holds up in wind, rain, and rugged terrain, and works with multiple fuel sources, propane, butane, or wood pellets. So you're never limited by where you are and what's available. But here's where it gets fun. This isn't just about boiling water. With Indie Stove's modular accessories, you can actually
cook. The workspace stack gives you sturdy side sleeves so your cookware, ingredients, and tools are right there when you need them most. No balancing acts, no chaos. The skewer stack lets you grill kebabs, vegetables, or skewered meals evenly with non-sag skewers designed for real heat control. And yes, people are baking chocolate chip cookies off the grid. Fresh cookies in the middle of nowhere. That is not survival, that's luxury. Indie Stove is built for people who want freedom without giving up quality. Real meals, real control, real independence. Whether you're camping, overlanding, prepping for emergencies, or just choosing a life that isn't tied to outlets and crowded kitchens. And because you're a Revenue Rascals listener, you get something extra. Use code Revenue Rascals at checkout and you'll receive a free workspace stack with your purchase of a stove, valued at $120. That's Revenue Rascals at indiestove.com. Because independence should taste incredible. Thanks for listening to Revenue Rascals, where we turn bold ideas into predictable revenue and prove that breaking the rules can still build empires. If you love what you heard, do me a favor. Tap the links in the show notes to support our sponsors. They're the ones keeping this show free so I can keep ungating the six-figure strategies that help you scale faster, lead smarter, and take more freedom home with you. And hey, if you think you'd make an incredible guest or know someone who's built something worth studying, email me at hello@michelleterpster.com. And until next time, stay sharp, stay bold, and stay just a little bit rascal.